Hi, this is Dell Sweet. Thank you for listening to this podcast.
Hi, this is Amy Adams. Welcome to the podcast, read by me, written by Dell Sweet. Copyright 2020, all rights reserved in their entirety. Episode 17. As they left the truck, Mike noticed that the store hadn't seemed to incur any more damage since the last time that he had been there. The roof was bowed inward. It had been before. But there were plenty of upright pillars that supported the roof, and they all appeared intact, at least the ones that he could see easily. The supports were spaced every 16 feet or so. Safe? Tom asked. Looks the same as it did the last time, Mike allowed. Candace and Bob looked at him, and he shrugged. I'd say so. It looks the same as it did the last time I was here. It doesn't even look as though anyone has been here. The scattered, powdered snow seemed undisturbed around the shattered doorway that led into the building. Mike snapped his flashlight on and led the way inside. The inside of the store told a different story. Someone had been there during the time Mike had last been there. Several of the glass display cases that held the weapons had been damaged. They were locked. Whoever had made the attempt had made it half-heartedly. The glass was safety glass of some sort. It had cracked and spider-webbed, but it had not broken and caved in. I guess someone tried to get in, Bob offered. Tom held up a discarded crowbar. Even in the weak light, they could see the streaks of scarlet on one end. Tom let it fall to the floor. The clatter was loud enough to make Lydia draw in a deep breath in the broken silence that followed. Jesus, Tom, she sputtered. Tom only grinned. Why does someone go through all of that when they could have simply taken a screwdriver and popped the locks? Candace asked. Well, Tom started. Candace had walked behind the counter, taken a screwdriver from her pocket, and began to jimmy the lock mechanism. It was a cheap sliding set, easily bent to one side, far enough to slide the glass door open. Candace smiled. Learn that in the big city, miss? Mike asked with a smile. Candace smiled back, reached inside the case, careful of the glass that had sprayed in small slivers from the spiderwebs in the top, and withdrew pistol after pistol, setting them on the wooden-topped case next to the cash register. 45, 9mm, a cheap one though. 380, kinda nice, though small. Here's a much nicer 9mm. She set several more guns on the wooden top, looked up with a crooked smile and asked, Well, gentlemen, lady, what will it be? You really know about this kind of shit? Lydia asked in an odd voice. Obviously well enough to know what's what, Tom said. That's right, obviously well enough, Candace agreed. She gave no further explanation. What do you think, Candace? Jan asked. Yeah, what would be the best? Mike asked her. Candace shrugged. It depends on what you like. I like a 380 myself. It's small, not as heavy as a 9mm. She pulled her own 9mm. This was my dad's. A good gun, but I like the 380 I had. A 380 won't really knock somebody down, though. Not like you see in the movies. But a 9mm won't always do that either. It'll just make a bigger hole. If you really want to knock somebody down, you need this. She held up the bigger .45 caliber pistol. She held the mostly black pistol easily in one hand. This will knock somebody down and kill them. And, on the off chance that your aim was bad and you didn't immediately kill them, believe me, they are not going to feel like getting back up. She grinned. It's still not like the movies. You know, where you see them flying backwards through the air, but it will knock them down and keep them there. Jesus, Candy, I'm like in awe, Lydia said. Candace said, and thank you. So how do you know all of that? Like, for real, how do you know all of that shit? My dad was a cop, not in Syracuse, but before we moved there. He had a thing for guns. I just caught it. When he knew I was going to be like him when it came to guns, he sent me for training, safety training mostly. But I liked it so much I started buying my own weapons. I took the test. Eventually I would have had my foot in the door in Syracuse. That's a good department. I would have already been in, if not for the economy. The thing is, I love to shoot, and I'm good at it too. She sighed. So, what'll it be? She let the smile return to her face, reached over, and began to jimmy another of the locks on the sliding glass doors. They spent the good part of 2 hours in the store. Camping gear, rifles, pistols, ammunition. Mike began to feel like they were equipping their own private army before they were done. Even so, by the time they left, everyone was carrying at least one pistol, and several rifles and boxes of ammunition had found their way into the back of the pickup truck. Candace, Mike noticed, had added a matte black .45 caliber pistol to the 9mm. She wore them in webbed holsters on a wide leather belt. I thought you preferred a .380, Mike said half-jokingly, as he replaced the 9mm he had decided on into the side holster he had chosen. I do, she said, for shooting. But like I said, a .380 can't knock somebody down. Her eyes met his. Yeah, there is that, Mike said quietly. They spent a short amount of time looking through another small convenience store in the same parking lot. There was very little left, most likely cleaned out, Bob voiced, by the same folks who had taken the guns. This was evidenced by smears of maroon on the countertops. Even so, they managed to find boxes of stuff in the storage area. They finished filling the backs of the trucks with basic first aid stuff, and several boxes full of candy bars and junk food, too. The sun had been standing overhead for what seemed like hours. Bob spoke. Hotter, he said. You can feel the heat, and, he motioned with his hands, the snow is melting faster as well. Got a theory on that? Mike asked. Bob shook his head. Maybe the whole process takes time, Candace said. Maybe, Tom agreed. Maybe it's not so easy to start something spinning in the other direction, and we don't know if it really stopped or not. The sun's coming up in the north, or it was, but that seems to be changing too. I don't think it stopped all the way. I think it's just got a different spin now, and maybe a different path. Bob nodded, as did Mike. I guess we'll leave it for the scientists, as long as we don't fall off the earth. He chuckled a little. Call it a day, Mike asked. Yeah, Tom agreed. We still have to unload all of this. There were a few half-hearted complaints, but everyone piled into the trucks, and they made their way slowly back towards the heart of the city and the cave that lay beyond the public square. Janet, March 14th. We are 6 people who have managed to stay alive through whatever it is that has happened to our planet. My husband Bob and I were fortunate enough to be protected by our spirits and brought through all of this. I am Janet Dove. My husband is full-blooded Blackfoot and a very proud man. A very good man, too, and not just to me. He treats all people well. My mother was Cherokee and my father was French. I don't mean French transplanted to this country. My mother met him in France. We were looking forward to whatever the Great Spirit's purpose is in this. We have many young people with us. Michael Collins, he's mixed race, like many of us. He probably doesn't realize it, but he is in fact our leader. He's in his early 20s. I guess the mixed race stuff doesn't matter anymore, but I lived with it for so long that it's hard for me to let it go. Bob has suffered worse with those prejudices. Many other people besides me. Maybe the world is at that place where all of that stuff can be let go now. I hope so. Candace Loy is a beautiful young woman. Her father is African American. Her mother is Asian. She has her father's dark skin blended with her mother's features. Striking. I enjoy her company. She reminds me of my daughter. I don't know how she fared in all of this. I suppose we're all wondering similar things. Tom, Thomas Evans, and Lydia, Marcia George fill out our party. We are planning to leave here in a few months and head south or west. The direction isn't decided, only the realization that we do need to go. The thinking is that we should head south, somewhere warmer. After all, there's no electricity here, and we are living in a cave. It's not a bad cave, and we're lucky to have it, because almost the entire city has been destroyed. The buildings are unsafe to live in. When we leave, we'll leave all of that behind us. This is who we are. We will most likely continue to the south. We are currently looking for a short-wave radio set to try to get in touch with others around the world. You, whoever you may be able to reach us wherever we have gone to now. Bob believes in the nation, that the people will once again live on the earth the way they used to. Bob believes it, and so I believe it. I'll continue to keep this book up while we're here and include any useful information we can pass on to you before we go.
Thanks for joining in. See you next week.